हेलो गाइज, वेलकम टू माय चैनल सीएससी टेक सॉल्यूशन में। आज के वीडियो में बताने वाला हूँ एसक्यूएल क्या होता है। एसक्यूएल आज के एसक्यूएल सर्वर के ट्यूटोरियल में बताने वाला हूँ व्हाट इज एसक्यूएल, एसक्यूएल कहाँ यूज करते हैं, क्यों हम लोग पढ़ते हैं और क्यों हम लोग एसक्यूएल को जानते हैं एसक्यूएल के नाम से, और क्यों हम एसक्यूएल सीक्वल से एसक्यूएल बना। चलो आज के वीडियो में हम डिस्कस करते हैं व्हाट इज एसक्यूएल। SQL is used to perform the operation on the records stored in a database, such as updating records, inserting records, deleting records, and creating records and modifying records, database, table, view, etc. Now, SQL is not a database system, but it is a query language. Suppose you want to perform the query of a SQL on the stored data in a any database management system in your system. For example, Oracle, MySQL, MongoDB, PostgreSQL, SQL Server, DB2. MongoDB is a NoSQL database management system. This database language is mainly designed for maintaining the data in relational database management system. It is a special tool used by the data processor for handling structured data which is stored in a form of table. It is also designed for stream processing in RDBMS. Now let's say why we are studying about SQL. Nowadays, SQL is widely used in data science and analytics. Following are these reasons which I explain why it is widely used. Now let's see below why we are SQL. The basic use of SQL for data professional and SQL use it is insert, update, and delete data from the relational database. Now next point, SQL allows the data processor and users to relative data from the relational database management system. Now let's say next point, it also helps them to describe the unstructured data. It allows SQL user to create, drop, manipulate the data in its table. Now next point, it also helps the creating view and stored procedure and function in relational database. Now next point, it allows to define the data and modifying the stored data in the relational database. Now next point, it also allows SQL user to set permission and constraint on the table, columns, view, and stored position. Now, model of data for use relational model of data for large stored shared data bank was a paper which was published by the great computer scientist E.F. Codd in 1970. ये E.F. Codd के द्वारा ये कंप्यूटर के बहुत महान साइंटिस्ट थे जो E.F. Codd को 1970 में डेवलप किया गया. Now, the IBM researcher Raymond Boyce and Donald Campbell originally developed the SQL. This stands for Structured English Query Language. After their learning from the paper given by E.F. Codd, and they both developed the SQL at the St. Joe's Research Laboratory of the IBM Corporation in 1970. Now, at this end of 1970, a relational software developed their own first SQL using the concept of E.F. Codd, Raymond Boyce, and Donald Campbell. This SQL was totally based on the RDBMS. Now let's study about the process of SQL. When we are executing the command of SQL on any relational database management system, then the system automatically finds the best routine to carry out the request, and the SQL engine will determine how to interpret that particular commands. Now let's study about the structured query language. Contains the following four components in its process. Now, how to process the data language by the DBMS. Now let's study. First point is a query dispatcher. Next point is a optimization engine. Next point is a classic query engine. Next point SQL query engines. Now let's see this figure and how process the data in the image and store in a physical database. Let's see and understand about it. Now some SQL commands. Now let's study about some SQL command. The SQL command help the creating and managing the database. The most command widely used and highly used in these commands: the create command and update command, delete command, select command, drop command, insert command. These all are the perform. Study about the create command. This command help in the creating new database, new table view, and other object that of the database. Now let's study about the update command. This command help in updating or changing the records data in the database. Now let's study about the delete command. This command help in removing or erasing the data saved records from the database table. It erases the single or multiple tuple from the table of the database. Now let's study about select command. It is used to retrieve the data from the database. This command help in accessing the single or multiple rows from one or more multiple table of the database. We can also use this command which is the where clause. ये वेयर क्लॉज यूज करते हैं फिल्टर लगाने के लिए, वेयर मल्टीपल कंडीशन यूज करते हैं वेयर क्लॉज को और डेटा को इंस्क्रिप्ट करने के लिए. नाउ लेट्स स्टडी अबाउट द ड्रॉप कमांड. दिस कमांड हेल्प इन डिलीटिंग एन एंटायर टेबल व्यू एंड अदर ऑब्जेक्ट्स फ्रॉम द डेटाबेस. नाउ लेट्स स्टडी अबाउट द इंसर्ट कमांड. This command help in inserting the data or records into the database table. We can easily insert the records in single as well as multiple rows of the table. Now let's study about the SQL, difference between SQL and NoSQL. Now let's see this data to understand how the SQL difference from the NoSQL and NoSQL database and SQL database, how to perform the operation, how store the data in a database. Now let's first point is in SQL relational database management system, and next while NoSQL is a relational data on distributed management system. Now let's study about the SQL query language used in this database system in a structured query language. Now let's study next point. NoSQL, the query language used in the NoSQL database system in no declarative language. Now let's study about the next point is in SQL the schema of SQL database is a predefined, fixed and static. Now next study the schema of NoSQL database is the dynamic schema for unstructured data. Now in SQL the database are vertically scalable in that stored the column or row, and now in the NoSQL the database are horizontally scalable. It is the stored in the collection and document and tuples. It is the database type of the SQL is the form of the tables in the form of the row and column, and NoSQL, the database type of NoSQL is the form of the document, key value and graph. It is stored the key value in and graph. And now let's study about the in SQL it follow the ACID model. Now let's study about the in NoSQL it follow the base model. And now in SQL complex query are easily managed the SQL database, and in NoSQL database can't handle complex query. In SQL this database is not best choice for hierarchical. It is not stored the hierarchical base. NoSQL database perfect option storing hierarchical data. NoSQL it is NoSQL a perfect option to store the hierarchical data. Now let's study about the all SQL database required object relational mapping. In database required the object relational mapping, and next point is in NoSQL many NoSQL database do not require object relational mapping. Now let's study about the Gauge, Circle, CI, Host, etc. are the top enterprise that are using this query language, and next in NoSQL, Airbnb, Uber, Kickstarter are the top enterprise that are using this query language. And in SQL use database SQLite, MS SQL, Oracle, PostgreSQL, MySQL and SQL Server are the example of the SQL database. And in NoSQL, Redis, MongoDB, HBase, Bigtable, Couchable, Cassandra are the example of the NoSQL database management system. Now let's study about the how advantage of the SQL. SQL provide various advantages which make it the more particular in the field of the database. It is the perfect query language which allow data professional and user to communicate with the database. Following are the best advantage of or benefits of the structured query language. Now first point is advantage of SQL. No programming needed. There is no programming needed, only less required the programming. SQL doesn't require a large number of the coding lines for the managing the database system. We can easily access and maintain the database by using simple query syntactical rules. These simple rules make the SQL user friendly. Now let's study next point is high speed query process. A large amount of data it accessed quickly and efficiently from the database by using SQL query. Insertion, deletion and updation operation on data are also performed in less time. Now let's study about the next point of the advantage of SQL standardized language. SQL follow the long established standard of the ISO and ANSI which offer a uniform platform across the to all its users. Next point of portability. The structured query language can be easily used desktop computer, laptop, tablet, and even if it's a smartphone. It can also be used with the other application according to user requirement. Now let's study about the interaction. We can easily learn and understand the SQL language. We can easily also use this language for communicating with the database because it is a simple query language. This language is also used for receiving the answer to complex query in few seconds. Now let's study about the next point of the advantage of SQL. More than one data view. in their SQL more than one data view. We can see the more than one data and relation of data we can see. The SQL language has also help in making the multiple view of the database structure for the different database user. Now let's study about the disadvantage of SQL. While the advantage of SQL, it is also has some disadvantage which are as follows. First is the cost. The operation cost of some SQL version is high. That's why some programming can't use a structured query language. Now next point is a disadvantage of the SQL interface is complex. In that the complex, very complex in SQL as compared to NoSQL. Another big advantage is that interface structured query language is difficult, which make it difficult for SQL user to manage it. Now let's study about the next point of the disadvantage of the SQL. The business rules are hidden, so the data professional and users who are using this query language can't have fulfilled database control. Video, I will meet you next time.